everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files, a podcast about animal rescue and welfare. My name is Kelly, and every week I talk about issues surrounding animals in this country and to the people who are passionate about making their lives better. Today, I'm going to do a solo episode. You guys know I throw these into the feed every once in a while just to give you my perspective on maybe some information I've come across or something that's happened lately. And you're going to get about 10 minutes of me talking about how I made a massive mistake the other day with my dog Cheese. I do like to be really transparent on this podcast because I like to make sure that if you're working in the animal rescue space and the animal welfare space and you're doing all this hard work and you make a mistake, I promise you it's okay. Somebody who's been around animals her entire life, around dogs her entire life, and is fostering dogs and constantly working in the space, I made a massive, ridiculous mistake. So it's okay to admit those mistakes because these things do happen. So here is what I did on Saturday. So Saturday night, I was getting some stuff ready for Sunday. We were having some family over for some pool time and like essentially what would be like a little cookout. And I was shucking corn. And the dog owners in the know probably know where this is headed. But I came across one ear of corn that we got from the farmer's market that just was not great. It just was missing a lot of kernels. It was really skinny, just really not that great of an ear. And I said, let the dogs chew this. Now, the dogs love to chew things. The dogs are entertained by chewing. Chewing is great for dogs. So I tossed them the corn cob. Didn't really think much of it. Max walked away, wasn't interested, but Cheese started gnawing on it right away. And then kind of as I'm continuing to shuck, I'm going, something in my brain is telling me that that might not have been the best idea. I feel like there's something with dogs and corn cobs, but I can't quite remember what it is. So I said, you know what? Let me take that away from her right now. And let me go ahead and hit the Google and see what Google has to say. So I took away the corn cob. She had eaten about half of it already. Eaten it. Yep. Eaten it. And I went to Google and pretty much Google AI told me right away that I needed to get her to an emergency vet as quickly as possible. I'm not one to panic, but I am one to take information and try to process things as quickly as possible. So I called a friend of mine who was a vet tech for a couple of years and is now a radiologist. And I said, hey, I messed up. What do I do? This is something I need to really be worried about. And I could tell by the hesitation in her response that it absolutely was something that I needed to worry about. So why can't dogs eat corn cobs? Well, they are unable to digest the fibrous material that makes up the cob of corn. So again, I'm not saying your dog can't eat corn kernels. Apparently that is totally fine for dogs, but it's the corn cob itself. They actually can't digest it. So when it's taken in larger chunks, which we all know that our dogs sometimes eat things big and don't chew them up completely, if it gets to the small intestine, it can create a massive intestinal blockage. And now you have surgery and obviously all the issues and complications that can come with an intestinal blockage. So my friend said, you really do need to get her to the vet. It's only been a few minutes. By that point, it had only been a couple of minutes since I gave it to her. And she said, at this point, it's still in her like upper digestive tract. She can throw it up. So you need to make her throw up. I asked a very old school vet dog care question and said, can I give her a hydrogen peroxide? And she said, I would not recommend that. It can burn her throat. That's not recommended anymore. So there's another little updated piece of information that I didn't have. She said, Kelly, do you know about Urgent Vet? Now, here's the thing, guys. This is going to sound like an ad. It is not an ad. I don't have nearly enough listeners to be paid by anybody to do this podcast. This is not an advertisement. This is strictly my experience. But she said, have you heard of Urgent Vet? It's like urgent care for dogs. So when I think about human medicine, you've got your PCP that you make an appointment. Something isn't, necessarily you need to see them right this second. It's not life and death. And then you have the ER where it is absolutely life and death. You definitely need to get in there. And, if you do go in there and it's not life and death, you might be waiting for hours and hours. And then you kind of have that middle space of that urgent care where something is absolutely timely and needs taken care of, but it's maybe not life and death. So in my brain, that's how I kind of reconciled looking up an urgent vet location. I looked them up they do online bookings. I personally called them and told them what was going on, told them the time frame of when she had eaten it versus when I could be at that location, and said, "Are you guys able to see me in an hour?" They said yes. I got to the urgent vet. They did a very quick assessment of what was going on. They asked me a bunch of questions, and they very quickly got her back and got her IV medicine to make her vomit. And then after she vomited everything up, she got an IV medicine to make her stop vomiting so that we didn't have a dehydration issue. And all in all, it was $300 that I did not want to spend, but it was only $300 as opposed to thousands of dollars in potential surgery for an intestinal blockage. So I wanted to talk about this today for a couple of different reasons. One, if you're not already aware of Urgent Vet, I wanted to kind of bring them up and bring up the states that they are located in so that you have an opportunity to look them up in your area as an alternative to an ER visit. It is urgentvet.com, and they are in Alabama, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin. So hopefully you heard your state in there. Hopefully they are expanding to other states. If you did not hear your state, I would look up like Urgent Vet Clinic in my area and see if you can find another brand that is potentially doing the same work. But honestly, I can't say enough incredible things about the staff. Timeliness. I was in and out of there in an hour. So the whole incident was about 3 hours, and 2 hours of that was my drive time to and from the location near me. And they were great. They were totally understanding when I told them the mistake that I had made and that was completely my error. The vet even joked with me that she's made a similar mistake with her dog, not with a corn cob, but with a grape. And so, given that, in addition to sort of singing the praises of the urgent vet situation that I had, I did want to just kind of give you guys a little bit of a refresher course on things that your dog and can and can't eat. There are conversations that I have with people, both dog people and not dog people. And oftentimes, when I bring up some of these things, people are surprised by some of the things that dogs can and can't eat. I am getting my information from aspca.org. ASPCA, for those that don't know, do have a poison control phone number, and I am going to go ahead and say it and put it in the show notes. But it's 888-426-4435. Again, 888-426-4435 if you want to save that in your phone as a contact. But this is where that information is coming from. Obviously, there are lots of other things that you should not give your animal. And to be clear, corn cob is not on here. But I guess you shouldn't also feed them something that they're just going to chew and get a blockage anyway. But there's lots of other things you shouldn't be feeding your animal. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it is a really great informative list. So here we go. Alcohol and yeast dough absolutely should not be given to your animal. For yeast dough, by the way, they're talking about raw. So obviously bread that's been baked already is fine, but anything that could potentially rise in their stomach is going to be an issue. Everybody seems to know about chocolate, but also they have lumped in there with coffee and other caffeine. So that's going to be an issue for any dog. Fruits and vegetables that are issues. This is where sometimes people get a little bit surprised. Avocado is not something that can be given to dogs. It's also a problem for birds, rabbits, donkeys, horses, and animals such as sheep and goats. But yeah, you absolutely shouldn't be giving any avocado. As far as citrus fruits are concerned, stems, leaves, peels, fruits, and seeds of citrus plants contains various amounts of citric acid that can cause irritation and issues, especially in larger quantities. Grapes and raisins. Now, grapes is one of those things that you don't think about is going to be an issue. And grapes is not the same issue as like grapes with little kids where they can choke on them. Grapes actually can lead to severe toxicity and kidney damage in dogs. So you definitely don't want to give any grapes to your dog or raisins. Onion, garlic, and chives. So all of that is not good. So if you're cooking something with garlic, don't give your dog any of the table scraps that have the onion or the garlic in it. Milk and dairy is not something that is also recommended. And then nuts and fatty foods is also going to be on here. So macadamia nuts, nuts including almonds, pecans, walnuts, and then coconut and coconut oil is also not recommended. Now, I know this is probably going to be a little bit controversial, and I certainly don't have any expertise because I know that raw diets are coming up in dog and cat nutrition right now. But according to the SPCA, raw and undercooked meat, eggs, and bones are not recommended. Again, you need to consult with your vet when it comes to a raw diet. You should be doing that anyway, but again, that is the recommendation from the ASPCA. Xylitol. If you are like me, you give your dogs peanut butter, right? For, putting them in Kongs or maybe giving it to them for pills. But if you use peanut butter that has xylitol in it, so sugar free is going to be a great word to avoid or a great set of words to avoid because that sweetness is going to come from xylitol. So sugar free gum, sugar free peanut butter, anything sugar free is typically going to have xylitol in it. And xylitol is an absolute issue and an absolute no-no for any cats and dogs. And then just anything that's going to be excessively salty is going to potentially create a serious issue. And, most of us know to keep our dogs and cats away from table scraps, but salts can actually lead to a serious issue other than just obesity, right? So I just wanted to bring up my experience of making a super, super dumb mistake. Cheese is doing great, by the way, for anybody who was wondering. She is totally fine. She had no additional symptoms. She actually had no symptoms at all. I was so incredibly proactive in getting her to the vet. She actually never felt bad. The only time she felt bad is right after she threw up because everybody feels bad right after they throw up. But she has since been, eating, drinking, peeing, pooping, doing all the normal things, playing, going on walks, hanging out with Max, and she's been great. So I strongly recommend if you have an urgent vet in your area and you have an issue that you need to have your animal seen by a vet, but an emergency vet is not necessary at that time. I strongly urge you to look up an urgent vet in your area. They were truly incredible. I've had other friends in talking about this that have also used them and had a great experience. But look them up in your area. And again, it was also something that I felt for me was incredibly affordable and not outrageous, which of course, emergency vet care, as it absolutely reasonably can be, very expensive. But this was a good experience from a really, really dumb mistake. So if you're listening to this and you have made a stupid mistake with one of your animals, please know that you are not alone. The most experienced of us can still make the dumbest mistakes. Just, I am not a big fan of AI. I'm not a big fan of kind of what it's doing to our brains, what it's doing to our climate, or to our planet rather. But it certainly can be a helpful tool when you can say, my dog ate a corn cob, what do I do? And an answer immediately generates, and you can see that that's confirmed by professionals. So Google it if you're not sure. It certainly isn't going to hurt to find out if you did make a mistake and then try to remedy that mistake as quickly as you can to save you and your pet distress. So as a reminder, please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. Please leave me a review. And if you are listening to this episode and you're thinking about a friend or a family member that this episode might resonate with, just go ahead and hit that share button and send it directly to them. But thank you so much for your time today and listening. And remember to be kind to yourselves and be kind to others. Have a great day.